What is up, tubes, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk about the meaning of Rumpelstiltskin. Similar stories arise cross-culturally, and the story is at least 4,000 years old. And so, in my opinion, it's probably worthy of analysis, and trying to extract whatever truth lies within. Before I can do this, because the actual contents of the story are kinda obscure in today's society, I'll have to briefly summarize what happens. One day, a miller spoke with a king and bragged about his daughter's ability to spin straw to gold. The king then brings the miller's daughter to his castle and tells her to spin a room full of straw into gold if she values her life. Because she knows she's unable to do this, the girl begins to cry until suddenly a small man appears before her. The little man asks why she's upset, and the girl tells him her problem, and the little man responds that he will spin the straw to gold in exchange for something valuable. The girl gives him her necklace, and the man spins the straw to gold. The king is pleased and takes her to another bigger room filled with straw and tells her again to spin the straw to gold if she values her life. The girl weeps and the small man again reappears with the same proposal. This time the girl gives him her ring and the straw is transformed to gold. The king takes the girl to a final, even larger room filled with straw. If the girl is able to spin this room of straw to gold, then the king will make her queen, for he should never find a wealthier girl in all the world. This time the girl has nothing left to give the little man. Knowing she needs his help to succeed, she reluctantly agrees to give him her firstborn child once she's queen. True to his word, the king marries the girl and makes her queen. The queen forgets the deal she's made with the little man and gives birth to a child. The little man then appears to remind her of their agreement. The girl pleads with him to release her from their contract, and the man, taking pity on the girl, tells her if she's able to guess his name in 3 days, she may keep the child. The queen frantically tries to recount names she's heard and sends a messenger to ask others for possible names. The messenger searches the first 2 days unsuccessfully, but on the third overhears a man singing his name in the woods. Today I bake, tomorrow I brew, then I'll take the young queen's child. Luckily no one knew that Rumpelstiltskin I am styled. The messenger takes this information back to the queen. The little man returns and the queen guesses his name. Casper? No, that's not it. Melchior? No. Balthazar. Nada. Rumpelstiltskin. Hearing this, Rumpelstiltskin is enraged and stomps so hard he buries a foot into the ground and while he's trying to pull it out, rips himself into two. So this is the story in a nutshell. So what is the story about? Rumpelstiltskin is a story about the psychological growth women experience battling the demands of life. Rumpelstiltskin is also a warning about what we choose to sacrifice when we become too focused on overcoming hardship. Left unchecked, we develop tunnel vision and zealously sacrifice everything trying to accomplish our goals, and by doing this can lose sight of what's truly meaningful. The king and his castle represent divine, incontrovertible reality, and the rules of society. Her boastful father represents her family and the community that have placed their faith in her. The miller's daughter, therefore, obligated by her father's expectations and the king's demands that she spin the straw to gold if she values her life, must find a way to survive and affirm her value. The name Rumpelstiltskin comes from the German Rumpelstiltskin, meaning little rattlestilt. This name gives us a clue to understand his nature. A stilt is a pole used to support a structure, and Rumpelstilts became the name for a goblin, which would rattle the poles of a structure's foundation. It may also be important to know goblins are personifications of obsessions, usually portraying obsessive greed. Personally, I think of them as creatures which gobble attention, like when a person is consumed by their work. I believe they're intrinsically connected with male symbolism too, as far as I can tell. Additionally, thread has long been used as the metaphor for life. In ancient Greece, the three fates, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, spun the lives of man. Clotho created the thread from which Lachesis measured and Atropos severed, these three representing birth and destiny and death. In the beginning of the story, the girl is overwhelmed and faced with something she believes is impossible. She must take the straw, the husk of her life, and spin it into gold. To do this, she must call on the dutiful and masculine part of her psyche, the subconscious animus. However, she has a very poor understanding of the masculine part of her subconscious, and when invoked, she becomes preoccupied by fulfilling the duties presented to her, and understandably so, because her life depends on succeeding. From this relationship with work, Rumpelstiltskin is born, a goblin of her animus. But Rumpelstiltskin's shaky nature has a double meaning here. Shaking implies causing instability, but shaking is also what an infant does when learning to walk, meaning it's a crucial beginning step in any type of growth. In order to draw gold from her husk, the girl must reprioritize what she chooses to value, and consequently devalue. She gives up pieces of herself to transform herself and so her life. I believe the necklace and ring are likely important in illustrating this point. While the purpose of the necklace isn't clear to me, it really only needs to indicate something she used to value, but had to be sacrificed. The ring might convey marriage, the idea being perhaps that she's put off marriage while tackling whatever demand she's decided is more immediately pressing. And, of course, she then sacrifices her maternal nature and her future child. Eventually, anyway, she spins the straw to gold and affirms her worth to her father and the king. The king, before symbolizing the oppressive difficulties of living in society, now is seen as something else, a husband. The girl is now worthy of becoming royalty and marries the king. I've found this story to have particular relevance today, with many people delaying having children for the sake of financial security, or even more pernicious ideological reasons they're told they have to believe or they're a bad person. Looking at this another way, people can have children then fail to be a parent for them. In the story, the queen is suddenly reminded of the deal she's made with Rumpelstiltskin after she gives birth. Luckily, she's given some time to reflect and figure out her problem, but not very long. She racks her mind for different names, different solutions to problems she's encountered in the past. She can't put her finger on it. Short ribs? No. Sheepshanks? Lace leg? No. No, it's something else. She struggles to balance motherhood against the animus-obsessed goblin. It is important for women to realize the masculine part of themselves, but to not become consumed by it, or it will be only to the detriment of their womanhood. In some variations of Rumpelstiltskin, the queen sends a messenger in search for names, but in other versions, the queen finds Rumpelstiltskin herself. Regardless, because this is a story playing out within the girl's mind, the messenger is merely being used to describe the action of searching for Rumpelstiltskin's name. First asking real people, and their advice possibly being in degree useful, but ultimately she has to look deep within herself, the woods. She finds Rumpelstiltskin singing about his plans. Today I bake, tomorrow I brew, then I'll take the young queen's child. Baking and brewing here have a large potential for interpretation, and correspond to how the girl had become possessed by her animus in order to survive within the king's castle. Rumpelstiltskin sings his name aloud, and she hears this and finally recognizes her animus obsession. On the third day, when Rumpelstiltskin returns for the last time to impede her from being a mother, she names him and he's torn in two. Separating utility and obsession, she's learned she must create a balance so as to not be consumed by her labors, forgetting what really matters to her and the essence of her femininity: motherhood. She has named and integrated the masculine aspect of her psyche, able to turn straw to gold and a poor miller's daughter into a queen. Destroying the goblin. Casper? No. Melchior? No. Balthazar? That's still not it. Oh yeah. Rumpelstiltskin. If you guys have any thoughts about this story or its meaning, please comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, like this video and smack your little rattling pole right up on that subscribe button. This is 9, signing out.